Hey, Motorman here, and boy, you got a problem. But the good news is, I'm a problem solver. I just got an email from somebody, and over the years, I've gotten so many emails just like this. And this guy saying he bought a mid-size bike, I think it was an Indian Scout, says it's like a 500-pound motorcycle, and he'd like to do some touring, and he hadn't ridden in 28 years before he got this bike, and he wants to do some touring, but the thought of having a 800 or 900-pound touring motorcycle scares the crap out of him because he's having problems with this bike. Well, that's very common, and I can tell you exactly why that is, because I see it so much. So many people have come to my class, and they'll be on a big Harley or a Goldwing or any heavyweight motorcycle, and they'll say, well, you know, I used to have a Sportster, or I had a Honda 750, and I never had a problem. Well, you did have a problem, but you were able, because the bike is so much smaller and lighter and so much closer to the ground, that you could muscle it around a bit. So if the bike started to fall over, yeah, you're so close to the ground with like a 25-inch seat height, you could easily push the bike back up until it got past a certain point, and you might drop it, but you drop it down nice and easy because the bike weighed 500 pounds versus 900 pounds for a heavyweight touring motorcycle. But it doesn't have to be that way. And this guy was saying he's thinking of, since he hasn't been riding for so many years, that he's lost everything, his skills, and he may just quit riding altogether. But for the vast majority of people, all you need is technique. Now, you've seen videos, and I'm going to show you some with my wife and many tiny little women whipping their bike around an 850, 900-pound motorcycle like a toy, like it was nothing, making the bike dance and do anything they wanted to do. It's not size or strength, obviously. If my wife at 5'2" and 110 pounds going to whip around a 900-pound motorcycle, it can't be strength. She's not Superwoman. And here's my wife Donna whipping that 875-pound motorcycle around like a toy. What does she have that you don't have? It's technique. Just 3 of them. Like I said, it ain't brain surgery. Head and eyes, friction zone, little pressure on the rear brake. That's all there is to it. Be strength. She's not Superwoman. It's just technique, and it's just 3 techniques. So to learn the techniques, and by the way, when I say learn the techniques, you want to get a good handle on the techniques, and you know, if you're not going to be a competition rider, you don't have to spend hours or months or weeks practicing, but just a few hours. That's all it takes. If you're not willing to put in a few hours of training, well, like I said, find another hobby, do something else. Because if you got through the MSF course and they had you on a little 250cc bike, and I know some of these MSF courses now, they'll even let you take it on a mini bike, on a Honda mini bike. And a lot of people even struggle on the Honda mini bike. I feel sorry for those people, but somehow they get past it, they pass the course, and they get their motorcycle endorsement, and then they don't go out and buy another mini bike or a 250. They buy at least a 500-pound mid-size bike, and a lot of people just go right out and buy a 900-pound Harley Ultra. You know, it's crazy because they think, well, I know how to ride because I passed the test on the mini bike, but it's not that way. The first thing you got to do is figure out that friction zone. That's the area clutch travel between completely open and completely closed. You want to practice in a straight line at about a walking pace. Have somebody walk alongside the bike to make sure you're at a walking pace. Should take 20 minutes. The heavier the motorcycle, the tougher it's going to be to muscle it around. In fact, when you get a bike that's over 500 pounds, 600, 700, 800, 900 pounds, you are not going to muscle around. You got to have some technique. Once you got that friction zone down by practicing the slow race, set yourself up 5, 6, 7, 8, as many cones as you want or markers of any type, and start weaving through them. The trick is to look far ahead of your path of travel, stay in the friction zone, and get that bike swinging and swaying. And like I said, this ain't brain surgery, folks. It's not like we're landing the space shuttle. You're just riding a motorcycle and riding it the way it was designed to be ridden, and you got to use some technique. Like I said, just 3 of them. Proper use of your head and eyes, looking only where you want to put that motorcycle, looking far ahead of your path of travel, using that friction zone. That's the area clutch travel between completely open and completely closed. At low speeds, you got to use the friction zone. That means you're slipping the clutch. As you get really good with the clutch and throttle, most of the time if you're practicing, you're not going to need the rear brake, but it's best to start with it as easy as possible. So clutch and throttle, little pressure on the rear brake, turn your head and eyes and look where you want to go. And the people that come to my class and that do really well are people who have practiced the proper techniques prior to getting there. Just, an hour and a half of practice before you ever get to the class, and hopefully it'll become addicting for you. The best thing you could do, get one of my videos. This is the Shortcuts to Riding Like a Pro. So if you're a lazy person, you don't want to get to the where you could be a competition rider, this is the perfect video for you, because it's going to show you the techniques, how to learn them simply and easily and very quickly, and survive in the mean streets. It'll show you why you did particular exercises, because we're going to take it out on the road and direct it right back to the exercises you did in this video. And like I said, you can buy both of these for $20 plus $5 shipping. You can get them as a download or as a DVD. And let's get to it now. I'm going to show you a few things. Hopefully you'll take this to heart and you'll stop. Here's a rider from last week's class practicing the figure eight. By the way, this guy is 72 years old. But like I said, he practices, he knows the techniques, and he breezes through this. Anybody can do this. Size, strength, age, none of that matters. It's just technique. And here's three women, my wife in the lead there, Marianne Hamilton behind her, and Victoria Pierce bringing up the rear. She's only 4'10", by the way, but as you can see, that means nothing. It's just technique, and only three of them. It's not brain surgery, folks. So you start with the slow race. That's going to teach you how to use the friction zone. That's very important. And remember, you're going just about a walking pace, as you can see here. And then you work up to the slow cone weave. Slow cone weave is important because it gets that motorcycle dipping, and that dipping motion makes every low-speed maneuver you ever perform so much easier. In less than an hour, you should be able to do this. Hours practice. And then you'll be whipping that bike around just like you see my wife doing here. Series of U-turns, quick transitions from left to right. She can make that motorcycle dance. All it takes is a little bit of practice, and not weeks, months, even days. Just an hour a week for a month if you want to stretch it out, and you'll be doing it easily. Please subscribe, get yourself a copy of my videos, and I'll see you next time.